my name is Cassandra Jacobson, and I'm here to talk to you about our children's sex life. Or that's what some people lead you to believe when they talk about sex education. What was taboo 20 years ago is actually more acceptable today. However, when it comes to sex education, we're just as restricted and confined to specific terms that we didn't realize, and it hasn't changed at all since I attended sex education. I couldn't believe the first day I got that letter, that little slip to take home to my parents to sign and then take back to school. Sitting in class, seeing those weird pictures and experiencing that for the first time, not sure what to think of it, and also hearing my teacher go, hush, constantly because, well, frankly, the boys were giggling. I remember listening to those boys giggle every time somebody said penis. I still remember my boys giggling when we said we were going to Dick's for Dick's Sporting Goods. This takes time to actually break that barrier down, and having these conversations, I think, are very important for us. So when we talk about sex education in schools, in the public schools especially, has it really changed? It's very important to understand that. One of the things to remember, though, is that not much has changed, and it's very inconsistent across the board. We still have those awkward pictures. We have sex education through other means now as well, but people most of all want to know, what are you teaching my child? So let's first define sex education. Sex education is the education of children regarding human sexuality, anatomy, activity, and even the reproduction systems. Comprehensive sex education is the education of children regarding human sexual anatomy, activities, reproduction, reproductive rights, though, safe sex, age of consent, sexual harassment, and gender equality. Did you know that the CDC recommends 19 different areas regarding sex education? However, the education is left up to the state, local, and even district areas. This is very important to know and understand what's being taught to your children. I'm glad I took on this project to really gain a greater understanding. Participation in states, though, vary. I want to talk to you today about some states providing HIV and STD education. This is really important to understand as Kansas requires STD, HIV, and AIDS education. However, only 69% of their education is age appropriate. That's very important to understand. 92% of secondary schools did teach HIV and other STDs transmitted during grades 9 through 12. So that was definitely more age appropriate to ensure that kids had the true understanding. But how were they teaching this? Were they teaching it by showing the condom in class? Teaching it how to put it on a banana? These are very uncomfortable, awkward conversations to have with your children. And in fact, just saying it almost makes me giggle and laugh myself. So it is important to truly understand that we have to know and understand what's going on. As a society, our kids are learning about anatomy and the biology of a human through YouTube, Google, Netflix, and even on playgrounds. That is not where I want my children to learn. I do agree with most people. Parents need to be the primary educators. However, if we are not taking that time, or as lucky as some of us were growing up with parents that educated us, we are not learning this properly. So through school, it's very important. But there's other people out there that believe this is not an option. Some of the cons that people believe about sex education is related to religious reasons. Many religions believe that it is a sin to be able to copulate, and also it's against what we call the Bible. And I think it's very important to really understand that these are also very outdated reasons. Something that I learned recently through an article online is the Catholic Parents Online site had an article, and it actually says 10 good reasons to oppose public school sex education. They believe that it actually focuses on more of the actions of sex and then more than the biology of the anatomy. They also said children don't need sex, they need chastity, which some states do teach abstinence compared to actual protection. But they also believe sex education is a how to do it class. Now, last time I was in sex education, I did not know how to do it, and I did not see how to do it on a screen. Instead, we learned that anatomy. So again, I believe a lot of this is outdated. They also do believe that parents should teach this information. Now, when we talk about encouraging sex, there was an article that I found very interesting from Washington State. It was called Pornography, Grooming in Schools and How to Sexualize Other Children. That is what they believe sex education is. Are we not informing the public what's being taught in schools? Are the public parents not taking the time to learn what's being taught in schools? These articles were both related to religious reasons as well. However, one of the big points is that they were trying to pull comprehensive sex education into the schools. Some of the pros, it does decrease teen pregnancy. You know, in 2017, CDC released a report that teen births in the US dropped 7% from 2016. Birth rates fell 10% for women aged 15 to 17 years and 6% for women ages 18 to 19. This can be contributed to the push of sex education within our public school systems. There's also been a decrease in STDs and HIV. There is also proof that the more you inform and create awareness, the more you decrease the curiosity of the actual act itself. But the most important thing I believe is we are trying to create better citizens. So when we talk about creating better citizens, we're looking towards ensuring that moving forward for the future of our children, we're teaching and educating them about safe sex, sexual harassment even, and even being able to understand gender identity. These are creating a more informative age group. I see it more now in teenagers than I ever have before, the understanding and caring that these children have. Some schools have gone as far as to teaching about healthy relationships or consent and actual consent to the act itself. I believe this is important to understand the difference between yes and no. During the Me Too movement in the last few years, we have seen a lot of information coming out and spilling out that people didn't realize the actions they had were creating a very unharmonious environment. And I think it's important that we as citizens create better citizens as parents. In San Francisco, they were the first city, ever to create a class called Healthy Me, Healthy Us. This was their answer to sex education. They talked about having healthy relationships, talked about having a healthy body in relation to that relationship. Not only was it body, but it was also mind. Many states have followed. However, it's only been 11 states nationwide. That's not enough. Christopher Pepper, health educator, I believe, says it best. Health class is a perfect venue for conversations. And now it's time to make sure sex ed is taught sensitively, thoughtfully, comprehensively in every school within our country. Teachers shouldn't be shy about this subject. This subject is very important to the youth of our generations and upcoming generations. So let's go back to this weird, awkward slide. Kids are learning sex education through a TV show on Netflix. I actually took a moment to watch this TV show. Wow, I was blown away by what kids with access to Netflix could see. I Googled sex education for my papers, and let me tell you some of the stuff that came up. It was not age appropriate. There wasn't a strong understanding of what they were really talking about, but there's a lot of pros and cons to this controversial topic. One of the things that I think about is my parents when it comes to sex education. My parents were very open with us in my household, myself and my siblings. I have actually chosen to be that same way with my children. And lo and behold, I have high school boys that are still virgins because they believe in the right way of sex. They also believe that it's not just the act itself. There's a bigger and picture to the whole situation. Looking back, I actually appreciate this education I received from my parents. However, not all people can say they receive that kind of education. So, yes, I'm for sex education within our schools, but I do believe that we need to go ahead and work a little bit about updating the material. The material is very far behind in this world. We are needing to also ensure that we deliver through a certified sex educator. This is a person that has been certified in the understanding of the anatomy, biology, being able to deliver it technically, creating an acceptable environment for open conversations about the systems of the body and even the act itself. My third part is teaching it from K through 12. Helping children to identify what's happening in their bodies at the very beginning and earliest stages, but making sure it is age appropriate. This is vital to the situation. You know, I have to agree with Shafa Zolman. She was a health educator for 25 years. She wholeheartedly believes parents should be the primary sexuality educator in a child's life, but they really cannot be the only one. Schools have to step up that education of sex education to create a comprehensive, comfortable atmosphere for children. There were even times when I remember my teacher feeling so uncomfortable as they moved around the room, couldn't make eye contact with the children in that room. They weren't comfortable delivering it. We need to ensure that children are having a delivery of a positive sexual identification environment. Comprehensive sex education is the way to go. One last thing. In the Netherlands, they are actually educating K through 12. They have a massive decrease in teen pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and frankly, there is a very comfortable atmosphere when you bring up the conversation of sex. So again, having a good, strong background in education to deliver a comfortable environment, educating the children of our future is going to be vital to ensure sex education is taught properly in the classrooms. Thank you.